Hey everybody, and welcome to Collect with Chris. Today we are going to be looking at 13 figures that I have in my collection that are estimated to be around $1,000 total, so let's get right into it. Okay, so starting off we have this Detolf shelf from IKEA. I currently have 2 figures in here, but the first figure we will be looking at is this Nami. This figure is from Portrait of the Pirates, and it is the Playback Memories version. This figure holds a special place in my heart because my dad gave it to me for my birthday last year, and I absolutely love this figure. I love that this figure is reminiscent of how Nami looked at the beginning of One Piece. Her pose is extremely simple, but that's what makes this figure so charming to me. The sculpt and paint job of this figure is very well done, and her hair is well textured, and the composition of her face looks very natural. I also like how they added shading to the skin to give it a semblance of a natural skin tone, and to put the cherry on top, they give you an additional faceplate where Nami is winking with her tongue sticking out, and an additional arm piece where she's making the OK sign with her hand. There isn't much that I dislike about this figure, so if you are a fan of One Piece, then I highly recommend that you add this figure to your collection. Next, we are looking at yet another Nami figure. This Nami is the film red version from Banpresto, and it is a much cheaper alternative to the previous figure we just looked at. I'm pretty sure I bought this Nami on sale, so it only costed me about $20. However, there is a reason that this figure is so cheap, and that's because it has a lot of visible flaws. One of which is that there's minimal shading on her clothing apparel. This could be her top, her dress, or her leggings. However, the dress is the most apparent. It makes it look quite flat and less three-dimensional. Even worse, the figure was just thrown in the box with minimal protection, so it has its fair share of scratches all over the figure. This doesn't bother me too much, especially if you enjoy your figures from afar. I also liked that Nami had a bright pink sword with this outfit, differentiating her from her normal attire. If I'm being completely honest, the sword was the main reason I bought the figure in the first place. Overall, it's a pretty cool figure, but if you're looking for perfection, I would spend your money elsewhere. Now that we have looked at both of my Nami figures, let's take a look at my Spy X family figures. These figures are super cool. They are definitely on the cheaper side, but despite their flaws, I still quite like them a lot. They were some of the first figures I ever bought. First, let's take a look at Loid Forger. I think that this figure is really well done. His clothes are creased in the perfect locations, making it look extremely realistic. His pose is quite dramatic, and the paint job is fairly well done, with a few flaws here and there, but that's to be expected with a cheaper figure. One thing that I absolutely hate about this figure is his hairline and his eyes. This might be me being nitpicky, however, I think they look extremely derpy, and for some reason, it just feels off to me. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good figure for the price. Now, let's look at Anya. This figure has some charm to it because it's Anya, and who could hate such an adorable looking child? Her hair sculpt is well done, and her face looks like it's straight out of the anime. However, I cannot in good faith recommend this figure to you. This is because there's a lot of paint overlap on her dress, where the gold and black border portions meet. In addition, there's a visible glue mark behind her right arm, which looks atrocious. The final reason I'm not a huge fan of this figure is because she's standing on a small riser that looks a little derpy, in my opinion. It would have been better if she was just standing on the regular stand. Despite all this, I still like the figure, and I can't really notice these flaws when they're sitting on the top shelf of my display. Finally, let's take a look at Yor Forger. Her sculpt and body proportions are fairly well done. Additionally, the inside of her dress has an intricate design that adds a lot of depth to this figure. I believe that they are roses, but I can't tell for sure. However, that is only when you view the figure from the front. As you turn the figure around, it leaves a lot to be desired. The dress is super flat looking, and there is no shading whatsoever. Her hair has no texture, and it looks like you're looking at a bald person's head. No kidding, that is how smooth her hair is. Moreover, her dress has a lot of scratches and scuffs on it. I believe that's from shipping or packaging or something of that sort. However, even so, I'm happy that I have Yor to complete the full set. Next, let me show you my Pokémon figures. I have two Eevees, one who is happily playing in a field of flowers, and another that's taking a nap on a soft beanbag. I also have the sleeping Bulbasaur version as well. They are extremely cute and they have no visible flaws. The paint lines are clean and the sculpt is on point. I could not be happier with the Pokémon figures, and I highly recommend that you pick them up yourself. Now let me show you my favorite figure in my collection. Alice from Sword Art Online is such a stunning figure. The color composition is amazing, and I love how the metallic gold armor is situated perfectly around the metallic blue dress. Additionally, I like the dramatic pose she's in. This feels like a pose one would strike right before an intense battle. Her pose oozes confidence, and I think that's amazing. I also like how there is a clear wind element in this figure. Her hair is blowing to one side, and her cape is being thrown out behind her. It's simple, yet it feels like they put attention to every little detail in this figure. If you are a fan of Sword Art Online, I highly recommend you pick up this figure. You will not be disappointed. Following Alice, we have yet another Sword Art Online figure. This time, it's Yuuki, the Mother's Rosary version, made by Genko in Need. This figure was a gift from my mom, and I'm incredibly happy to have it in my collection. The sculpt of the figure is amazing, and I'm a sucker for figures that have armor. They just make a figure 10 times better. I think it's because the metallic sheen makes the figure pop so much more. I also like how the character is in a very dynamic pose. It's as if she's about to launch a skill. Finally, the hair sculpt on this figure is amazing, and there's not a single flaw to be seen. The only complaint that I have with this figure is her mouth. She has this half-hearted smile that doesn't really sell the fact that she's in a battle at this very moment. Other than that, it's an amazing figure, and I highly recommend you add it to your collection if you have space for it. Next, we have Boa Hancock, the Grand Line Lady made by Ban Presto. I'm very impressed with this figure considering it only cost me $30. The paint job is pretty well done, her skin tone looks fairly natural, and her hair looks good considering that it can be easily messed up on a figure. If you like Boa Hancock, I recommend you pick up this prize figure considering how good of a deal it is. Okay, real quickly, before we take a look at my Intelligent Systems Lin here, I need to ask you guys a question, and that question is, which figure should we unbox next? I recently had like 4 boxes from Ami come, and we have a ton of figures that we could open. So what I need you to do is to drop a comment down below and let me know which figure you would like to see me unbox next, and I will unbox it as soon as possible. Now that we got that out of the way, let's check out my Intelligent Systems Lin from Fire Emblem. This figure looks fantastic. Her clothes have shadowing and natural looking folds, which makes the figure look more three-dimensional. The figure also has good supporting details like cords coming off the sheath of her sword and her waist, which really tie the figure together. I also think that her hair looks very natural, and her face is well done too. Overall, a great figure, and I'd look into picking her up if you are a Fire Emblem fan. The next figure that I have for you is Barbados from the Gundam franchise. I bought this figure almost 5 years ago and built it with my brother. It's a fun memory, and it's from a good anime, so I'm definitely happy to have this in my collection. I highly recommend building at least one Gundam in your lifetime, so if you find one that you really love, I would recommend buying it. It can be frustrating at times building these things, but it is totally worth it in the end. Next, I have this super cool Halo statue. It's actually my brother's, so I don't really know any information on it, other than that's Master Chief and Locke from Halo 5, but enjoy this short clip of the two. Alright, that is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like, that would mean the world to me, and subscribe if you would like to see more anime-related content. Alright, peace!